Tim Kirby Russia hot takes. The West would control the entirety of the territory of Ukraine today if they would have just done nothing to the Russians. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, from the moment that Ukraine got independence in 1991 up until recently in 2002, the Ukraine has basically lost 5 states so far to the Russians. But if they would have just sat there and done nothing, Kiev, or should I say Washington, would control all of that territory still. Let me explain why. So, there was a very, very unpopular Ukrainian president named Yanukovych. I think his approval ratings were something like 15%. But then again, Ukraine was it is a very divided society, and how are you going to find a perfect candidate that's going to have a really high approval rating? Well, that's tough to do. Only Zelensky's handlers are able to do that for a few months before the election. So anyways, this unpopular president, he got overthrown by the Maidan, which was organized by the State Department. They admitted to it. And right after that, what happens? Well, the Russians saw the loss of their naval bases at Sevastopol as being an existential threat to their existence. That's a hard word to say. And anyways, they were willing to risk, I guess, a potential nuclear confrontation to make sure that referendum happened and to bring Crimea back. So Ukraine loses 1 state, all right? But the thing is, Yanukovych didn't have that much time left in office. And as we saw with the Zelensky project, with enough PR and hype, they could have gotten their guy onto the throne very easily. Someone might say, well, Yanukovych was about to sign up for the Eurasian Economic Union and so on and so forth. Well, first off, if you get a new president in with a nice paid off, Congress, you can make a lot of things happen. And also, it's a loose economic union. I mean, if you think about it, there's some unions where Armenia and Azerbaijan are still on the same side, technically, due to being former Soviet republics, and they're willing to go to war with each other. So this whole thing of this Eurasian Economic Union, they had to act. I don't think that that's true at all. They should have just done nothing, waited, and then legally, calmly, gotten someone like Zelensky into power who would just do whatever they want. But okay, they didn't. So they lose 1 state. Yanukovych is gone. They've got Poroshenko. And then what do? They let these Ukrainian nationalist guys go nuts. They're going to do everything they can to ban the Russian language, to create some sort of weird apartheid state like in South Africa or Israel or something, and repress the hell out of the Russians. And then the neo-Nazis go down there to the Donbass, because the Donbass started to rise up due to the Maidan, and they went down there to crush them. Okay, so what if they would have just maybe kept it calm and been like, look, guys, we got to keep this calm. Okay, so maybe we overthrew the government, but we're not going to do this, and try to stabilize the situation. Nope, they launched their anti-terror operations. They basically go down south to murder their own population. Well, technically they're their own population, but if anyone knows the Ukrainian neo-Nazi mentality, they consider the people there, be they Ukrainian citizens or other, to be subhuman, and they're just cattle for the slaughter. So, anyways, rather than, again, taking the option of maybe doing nothing, they start their anti-terrorist operation, which makes the Donbass go into this sort of frozen, not very hot, warm war while they're being supported by Russia and Kiev is supporting their own forces. And that conflict, sits there for about 8 years. And then what do the Ukrainians do? Well, first off, they get involved with this biolab garbage from the Pentagon, which is an existential, I cannot say that word today, existential threat to the survival of Russians and, in fact, all Slavs, which also shows you the depths of madness of them. They are so convinced because of their Aryan race bullshit that they're not Slavic or they're somehow different from the Russians. If there was a disease to kill Russians, it'll kill all the Ukrainians too. But anyways, so they started to get involved in that bullshit. And then, according to the people who like to feed me information from time to time, they were certainly planning a mass invasion to finally crush and exterminate the Donbass. But don't forget, they've been terrorizing, torturing, murdering, raping, and so on the local population, especially around Mariupol, for many years. So rather than, again, doing nothing, they go in, and the Russians start their special military operation, and the Ukrainians lose 4 more states. So the question is, when are they going to give up? Because, to be honest, if they just have done nothing, if they just would have sat there, they could have used the best thing that the West has to offer, propaganda, because the West is good at it. The West has done a brilliant job of convincing everyone in the former Soviet republics and a very large percent of the Russian population within Russia that if you just submit to the West, you'll be rich and happy. Go to the West, life's better. Submit to the West, you'll become richer. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is that you submit to the West and do what we say, and that will make you wealthy and prosperous. And that works really well. In fact, that's probably one of the main motivations actually behind what was happening at the Maidan. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way for them, or to be honest, for any former Soviet republic, it didn't really work out that way. But the propaganda works. And if Washington would have just tried to slowly continue changing society within Ukraine through propaganda and no aggressive force, none of this Nazi bullshit, none of these the murders and overthrows and all this stuff, they would have succeeded, because Russia sucks at propaganda. They chose to fight the Russians in a way that the Russians are good at fighting, bluntly, with men, bayonets, rockets, high-tech warfare, rather than subtly through PR and manipulation, where Washington is king. I don't know. It's kind of like a knight goes out to the battlefield and decides to take off his armor to make things more fair or something. Doesn't make sense to me, but that's what happened. So anyways, word to the wise, if you are really good at PR, don't fight anyone. Art of war kind of stuff, right? So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video and you like the opinions coming out of my big fat mouth, then join up on my Telegram channel. That's Tim Kirby Hardcore on Telegram. Link, of course, in the description.